Good evening, everybody, and a happy new year. We're going to call the meeting to an order at 7 p.m. Member Karen Wilson will lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. All stand.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Member Karen. Supervisor Marina, can we please do a roll call?
Yes, thank you, Chair Doshi. Member Cortez,
Present.
Member Flax,
Present?
Member Gonzalez,
Present.
Member Hom, Member Nam,
Present.
Member Stitt, Member Westfall. He did send us an email saying that he's unable to attend tonight. Member Wilson,
Here.
Vice Chair Habib,
Present.
Chair Doshi.
Present. Can we have a motion to excuse Member Westfall?
I'll motion.
And I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. We'll go to item number 4, public comments and suggestions. Ms. Marian, do you have any speaker cards?
I don't believe I see a speaker card. We did have one written correspondence.
Okay.
And prior to the meeting, we received one written correspondence submitted by the deadline listed on the agenda. The correspondence has been distributed to the committee members. The written correspondence has been entered into official record and is available upon request through the office of the city clerk during regular business hours.
Anybody here in the audience has any comments? None. So we'll close the public comments section. Can we have an approval of the minutes, please?
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. The motion passes. New business. Can we have Public Safety Manager Evans and Captain Song, can you give a report?
Yes, before we do that, we do have item 6A, which is a review and consideration of an informal update on the Tuesday, March 4th, 2025 Cerritos General Municipal Election. And Cerritos City Clerk Cindy Nava will be presenting that material to you. Cindy?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Good evening, Chair Doshi and members of the Community Safety Committee. Thank you for allowing me to provide a brief update this evening on the Tuesday, March 4, 2025 Cerritos General Municipal Election. I will also provide information this evening regarding an additional upcoming voting period for the state Senate election. If you would turn your attention to the screen, this election season in the Cerritos General Municipal Election, Cerritos voters have the opportunity to vote for 3 members of the City Council and on 2 charter amendment ballot measures. The city charter may only be amended by a vote of the people. Both the City Council and Cerritos voters have the power to place measures on the ballot. The California Elections Code defines the process by which residents may place a measure on the ballot by voter initiative, and by which the legislative body, the City Council, may, by a majority vote at a public meeting, place a measure on the ballot. Measure J on the March 4 ballot relates to the setting of the city's general municipal election date in the city's charter. If Cerritos voters approve Measure J, the election date would be set to remain as the first Tuesday after the first Monday in March of each odd-numbered year. Along with this amendment are other conforming amendments set by this measure, including the setting of the commencement date of City Council terms as the second Tuesday of April, beginning with the 2027 election, and the setting of the date of the annual mayoral transition in the city charter, beginning in 2026 as the second Tuesday of April. Measure K relates to a general charter cleanup. Spelling and grammatical errors would be corrected, and the charter document would be updated to reflect modern business practices, such as authorizing the city manager to appoint the city treasurer. The state recently declared a vacancy on State Senate District 36 when Senator Janet Wynn ran for and won a seat on the Orange County Board of Supervisors. This created the need for the state to call a special election to fill that seat, scheduled for Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. Ballots will be mailed to active Cerritos registered voters beginning January 27. Ballots will be mailed for the Cerritos general municipal election beginning February 3rd. Voting for each election ends at 8 p.m. on Election Day. Because Cerritos voters will have access to 2 different ballots at the same time, those who opt to vote by mail or by use of vote-by-mail drop boxes should be mindful of which ballot they're placing in which envelope. Based on current voter registration and population data, we can say that the majority of those eligible to vote in Cerritos are already registered. However, to verify if you are registered to vote, visit lavote.gov. Voter registration is also available on that site. Those ages 16 and 17 may also pre-register to vote online. The registration deadlines to receive a vote-by-mail ballot for both elections are listed on the screen. It is important to note, however, no voter for either election will be turned away. For the state Senate election, the county will offer conditional voter registration at the in-person voting location. This is somewhat similar to the traditional provisional ballots that will be provided in the event a voter is not found in our voter database. Voters in either situation will be provided a ballot, and their vote will be counted at the appropriate time, subject to the appropriate verification. A side-by-side comparison of options for voting in both upcoming elections is provided on the screen. The county is set to conduct in-person voting for the state Senate election at Don Knabe Community Regional Park for 11 days from February 15 through 25. On state Senate election day only, February 25th, the Way Out Ministries in Hawaiian Gardens is also scheduled to be open for in-person voting. For updated information on open vote centers for this election, we encourage the public to visit lavote.gov or contact our office. Though the city's election is being conducted as an all-mail election, for those who prefer to vote in person, we'll be voting for a total of 23 days, beginning during regular business hours in the city clerk's office on the first floor of City Hall, Monday, February 3rd through Friday, February 28th. We're also offering weekend voting Saturday and Sunday, March 1st and 2nd, in the City Hall main lobby from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., which will continue in the main lobby on Monday, March 3rd, 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., and on Election Day from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. Voters opting to vote in person for the city election are encouraged to bring with them their Cerritos vote-by-mail ballot and return envelope. For both elections, vote-by-mail drop boxes will be open 24 hours per day at the Cerritos Civic Center and Cerritos Park East until 8 p.m. on Election Day. Lastly, voters may mail ballots for both elections free of charge. Ballots must be postmarked by the respective election day and received by the appropriate entity within 7 days after the election. Again, voters opting to vote by mail or use a drop box should be mindful of placing the ballots in their respective envelopes. Remember to place your single race ballot in the county envelope and your city ballot with votes for multiple Cerritos City Council seats and 2 ballot measures in the city envelope. Our office has been and will continue to work diligently to keep Cerritos voters informed. Aside from providing regular updates at each council meeting, we've placed information on the city's website and have been working with our wonderful communications division to provide regular updates on the city's social media outlets and TV3. We will also provide updates at each of the city's upcoming commission and committee meetings, and will be attending upcoming city events such as the Martin Luther King Jr. Day Ceremony and Festival of Friendship. We've also sent postcards to over 14,500 Cerritos voter households and have provided updates in the Cerritos Community News. Sample ballots will be mailed next Wednesday, January 23rd, but you don't have to wait for the mail. The official sample ballot and voter information guide for the city's upcoming election has been available on the city website in 7 different languages since January 8th. The Office of the City Clerk is available for assistance Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. We look to all of the city's commissions and committee members as ambassadors to help spread the word and keep the public informed. On behalf of the City Clerk's office, thank you to the committee for being our ambassadors and for allowing us the opportunity to present this update. This concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions the committee may have. It is now recommended this committee open public comment for this item and receive and file this report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have a question. The age limit you said is 16 or 18?
You must be 18 to be able, thank you for your question, Chair Doshi. You must be 18 to be able to vote in the election. However, pre-registration for minors ages 16 and 17 is available. So at age 16, you can pre-register to vote. And then that way, by the time you turn 18, you're already in the voter registration database.
Anybody has any questions? Thank you. Can we have Safety Manager Evans report?
Yes, Chair Doshi, we'll move on to item 6B, which is a review and consideration of the informational status reports on the community safety matters, including crime statistics, traffic, crime prevention and special projects, and emergency preparedness. Before I present my report, I would just like to welcome everyone here to the Community Safety Committee meeting and start by thanking you for being here and for helping to keep the city one of the safest communities in the region. So thank you for that. If you're not aware, this is the first televised Community Safety Committee meeting for those who might be at home. And from now on, we will be here in the City Council chambers and broadcasting the Community Safety Committee meetings into the future. Public safety is very important to the City Council members and to the City Manager. And for that reason, they wanted us to have it here in this meeting so that people at home who could not attend this meeting can also benefit from the information that we provide and also help in keeping the city safe. With that, what we wanted to do, first of all, is update you with the crime abatement efforts. You may recall back on November 4th, City Council approved funding for additional crime abatement area efforts, particularly focusing on residential burglaries. And we had a series of special events and equipment and programs that we initiated. And what I'd like to do is update you on that right now. Our very first thing here is we're going to talk about residential burglary alarms being upgraded to priority status. With that, Captain Drew Strong here will provide you background on what that actually means.
So the Sheriff's Department responds to 3 different types of calls: routine, priority, and emergent. Generally speaking, routine calls would be like a report call. So if a crime already occurred, let's say a burglary occurred while you were gone for the weekend, you came home and you realized your residence was burglarized and no suspects were still there, we would generally treat that as a routine call. We'd respond to the location, take a report for you, provide you the report. Priority calls are calls that potentially have the ability to turn into dangerous calls where people could get hurt, such as like a family disturbance call. So the family could be arguing, but the potential there is that it could turn into a domestic violence incident. So we respond to those as a priority. The most emergent calls are emergent calls, which are traffic collisions with injuries, things that are life-threatening, people that are shot, stabbed, and so forth. So originally what we did with audible alarm calls is we handled them as routine calls. Generally speaking, across the board for the Sheriff's Department, that's how we respond to them. And most other police agencies respond to an audible alarm call in the same fashion. What we did here in Cerritos was we upgraded that to a priority call, which means that the response time is faster. So if there's any routine calls in the deputy's computer system, they're pushed aside for a moment while they respond to the priority call, because obviously it takes priority over the routine calls. So right now, our response times to priority calls are about 7 minutes. Our response times prior to burglary audible alarm calls were 14 minutes. So we've been able to, we're shooting to get them to 7 minutes. That's the goal, and that's where we're at right now. So that's where we're at with the routine calls going up to priority calls and then emergent. That's an explanation of what they are, how we respond to them, and why we changed that so that we could respond faster. Sure. And then after that is special assignment deputies are focused on patrolling the neighborhoods. So our special assignment team, or some people call it a special problems team, consists of a sergeant and 6 deputies. they address quality of life issues. In this particular instance, it's going to be burglaries. That's been the topic that we've been trying to address, and they've each been doing saturation patrols and providing me with the computer logs of where they've patrolled and the time that they spend in those areas going around the neighborhoods. I've heard a lot of feedback from the citizens saying that they're happy to see a lot more deputy activity in their particular areas that they live at. So I think they're doing a successful job, and we'll keep it up.
Just like to add that the city's also provided additional funding for deputies to provide 40 extra hours per week of patrol. That's been set aside the last week or so because of the fires. But generally, not only the special assignment team is out there, but we also have additional patrol shifts that are out there as well. Additionally, one of the things that we're going to be adding to our toolbox here, if you would, is an ALPR trailer that has security cameras. On the screen there is a photograph of it. It's a smaller trailer. We just had it built and custom configured for the city. And so what we're going to be having is live camera coverage from those security cameras in addition to ALPR coverage, so any vehicle that drives by that. These trailers will be deployed in and around residential streets, primarily at the entrance to the tracks. They are not going to be in the interior tracks. They are not going to be looking at residential homes or anybody's driveways or anything like that. This is strictly the feeder streets coming in and out of the track. We're going to use this one here, and then if they're very successful, we'll be ordering another one, but this will be online. It was completed last week, and we are anticipating deploying it next week. So I want to provide you an update with that. Additionally, we have Southwest Patrol. You might have seen them driving around in the city. They are fully staffed and functioning out there. We have 3 unarmed security guards that work Monday through Friday from 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 p.m. These are the vehicles. We are working on getting magnetic badges for these vehicles so that people know that they are sponsored by the city of Cerritos. They are on order now. Our initial order came in and they had some flaws. We had to send them back, so we weren't quite ready. But we anticipate by next week, when they drive within the city of Cerritos, they will have Cerritos City logos on there as well, the city seal. And they are out there doing a great job. We are hearing feedback from the community that they see them and they appreciate them out there. Additionally, just so you know, the council has directed me to take a look at providing 24-hour a day, 7-day a week coverage from Southwest Patrol. So we are contacting them now for pricing and those type of things.
Yes, what I'm wondering is it a good traffic stop to stop people with tinted windows? Does most of your burglars always come in cars with very high tinted windows?
Yes, we can get back to that. It is illegal to have tinted windows in the state of California. And so that's something the deputies can address. I'll have Captain Strong there address that specifically. But if they're factory tinted windows, it's allowed. But aftermarket tinted windows on the driver's windows, you can have anything tinted behind the driver. But windshield, the driver windows are not allowed to be tinted beyond a certain level. But Captain Strong can address that.
You pretty much covered it, sir, with the tinted windows. And you're asking, is it against the law to have tinted windows on the front of the vehicle? Yes, it is. Can we pull people over for tinted windows? Yes, we can. Are we, utilizing that when we do patrols to see, if there's somebody with tinted windows that we need to talk to, we can stop the car for having tinted windows.
Next, wanted to report on you that we have interviewed and hired a CSO officer. That was one of the things the council wanted us to do. We had a vacancy. So we have filled that immediately. We have a second position that we will be seeking. It's about a 3-month training process because when we hire a CSO, a community service officer, they have to learn to write the sheriff's reports. They have to learn to utilize the sheriff's computer in the car, use the radio codes. They have to go to the crime lab for training for taking latent prints and DNA evidence. And so there's about a 3-month training cycle for that. The new person that we hired will begin next week. So that'll be an additional person out in the field. And what that means is they'll be patrolling as well. So it's another set of eyes and ears out there. And in addition, anytime there is a burglary, they'll be able to respond right away and take that report right away so people don't have to wait very long if the deputies are busy. Additionally, the city has funded ALPR cameras, and we're into phase 2. If I could just switch to the next map here, if you take a look at the map. So where we are here in the red dots, that is phase one. Those cameras are installed, they're up and running. They are pretty much around the Los Cerritos Center and the Auto Mall. Phase two is in yellow. Those cameras have been funded. They have been ordered. We've been signed the contract with Motorola, and we are awaiting shipment of all the equipment. That equipment will be shipped to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, will be configured, and then once it's configured, it will be installed. And so we're probably looking at 30 days before the yellow ones, if you would, are in place and up and running. And then phase three, the blue cameras there, that shows you additional intersections that we're seeking to have covered. That will be in the next fiscal year. That's slated for, the July timeframe. Next, we're going to be speaking about the drone program. With that, I have Captain Drew Strong here talk about the Sheriff's Department's drone program.
Thank you, Daryl. So I just want to provide a quick update on the drone program. So as you know, drones have been approved by the LSD for use in Cerritos. We have currently selected the deputies who will be operating the drones. The deputies were provided the study material for the FAA test for drone operators. We're aiming for the deputies to take the test by the end of February. However, with the recent fires and deployment, we may need additional time for the deputies to prepare for the exam. Most of them have been assigned to the fires for the last week or so they haven't had any time to look at that material. So after the test has been completed, the deputies will undergo a drone operator practical application course taught by the department's Special Enforcement Bureau. And after completing that course, they are certified to use drones in the field. We're going to utilize the model DJI Mavic 3 thermal drone. Those have already been purchased by the city.
Thank you, Captain. Next, what we'll be presenting is the crime data, the Sheriff's Department crime and traffic report. And with that, Captain Drew Strong here will provide some overview of the crime statistics.
Thank you, sir. So as of this year, actually, the year's concluded, but at the end of the year, we ended up with 1 homicide. That was about the same as last year, so we didn't change on that. Homicide Bureau is currently working that particular incident, and I haven't had any updates from them in regards to that, but they're still working that actively. As far as rapes throughout the city, they went up by 16%. Most of those were known individuals that family members either knew, so we don't have a serial rapist running around the city or anything like that. When we go to robberies are up year to date. A lot of that has to do with some legislation and some prosecution and things like that occurred. A lot of them derive from thefts at the mall, where individuals are taking items from the mall. Security tries to stop them on the way out. A fight ensues while they're still in possession of those goods. That's classified as a robbery. So that will drive that up. So if there's more thefts, a lot of times there's more robberies because those individuals who are taking the goods are contacted by security or mall management or anybody from there on the way out. They try to stop them. A fight ensues while they still have the goods, and that's categorized as a robbery. Aggravated assaults are up 6.9%. The bulk of those are going to be domestic violence incidents. And then moving down to the next category, which are burglaries, I've got a message I'm going to put forth for you right now. So as many of you know, burglaries increased substantially in 2024. They were up 39% from 2023. Beginning November 5th, 2024, as a response to the citizens' concerns regarding residential burglaries, the city and the Sheriff's Department worked collectively to combat residential burglaries. We began dispatching residential burglary calls as priority calls, as we previously mentioned. We automated license plate reader cameras were installed around the mall and the auto center. The city allocated $50,000 worth of overtime for 2 one-person patrol cars to respond to the audible burglary alarm calls throughout the city and perform saturation patrols in the areas hardest hit. Drones were approved for use by the Sheriff's Department. Major Crimes Bureau began performing operations throughout the city. The Special Assignment Team, consisting of a sergeant and 6 deputies, continued to perform saturation patrols. Pharmacies were entered into our CAD system, which is our computer system, as priority responses whenever an audible alarm goes on at those particular locations. Volunteers on patrol keep performing patrol checks in the areas hardest hit by burglaries. And we placed a deputy in the Neighborhood Watch program to bridge the gap between the community and the deputies that serve them. We also performed parole and probation compliance searches, which resulted in 1 arrest. The city funded 3 new security guards to perform patrols throughout the city. And after implementing these changes, I took a look at the data that was collected from the past 2 months, starting November 5th, 2024 through January 5th, 2025, in order to monitor the results or the changes that have been implemented. From that period of time, we experienced a decrease of 12.1% in residential burglaries. We brought response times to residential burglary alarm calls down from 14 minutes to 7.3 minutes. So we reduced those by almost in half. After looking at the numbers, we brought every category of response times down. So every category means the response times to routine, priority, and emergent calls. All of them came down. That's a testimony to how hard the deputies are working. That's not me, that's the deputies in the field that are responding to those calls and working hard to get there as fast as they possibly can. This included routine calls, priority calls, and emergent calls. I've been in contact with multiple residents who recently observed the deputies patrolling their neighborhood and expressed their appreciation for the increased number of patrol checks. So I'm confident that working together with the community involved as well, with all those eyeballs that you guys have out there as well, that we can continue to decrease the number of burglaries in Cerritos, but it takes an effort on both sides to work collectively to resolve the problem. And moving on from burglaries.
Thank you, Captain Strong. That was good. I think this is what the community wanted, and you can see the effect. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
So, all right, I'm going to make one quick comment, if I may, on the chart that you're looking at on the screen. And that is a 5-year comparison of all the Part 1 crimes. And as you can see, the lower columns on the left, those are the violent crimes, robberies and such. As the captain mentioned, 40 of the 85 robberies had to do with shoplifting, known as Estes robberies. It's about 47%. So that number can even be cut in half because that's to do with the shopping districts and shoplifting. But what I really pointed out is if you look at the columns that are within that square, those are all property crimes. And that's what we've always talked about here in Cerritos. It's a very safe city, but we have a lot of property theft here because we have a lot of nice property here. And so those columns represent that. And of all those columns, you can see that burglary and larceny, which is theft, are more than last year. The rest of them are either the same or less. So again, we have a lot of theft going on, and that's what that represents, all the marks there. So I just wanted to point out that property crime has been and remains our greatest crime problem, and that's why we work so hard with the community and neighborhood watch to sort of drive that down. And so before we moved on from that slide, I just wanted to interpret that for you. Captain?
Okay, so next up would be the larceny section. Thefts over 950 are down. However, larceny petty thefts are up quite a bit. They are up 63%. That has a lot to do with what's going on in the town center or the Los Cerritos Mall with theft and the prosecution of theft and those types of things. So we're hoping for a change in the future with that, with some new legislation that passed, as well. There's a new district attorney that has some new direction on that. So moving on to the next section, grand theft auto. Last year, at one point in time, grand thefts for vehicles were up about 160%, I think, roughly 160%. We really focused hard on trying to bring those down, so I'm happy to say that at the end of this last year, we were down 21.9% on automobile thefts, which was awesome job by the deputies again there, and also units from TRAP, which is a special unit on our department that investigates vehicle thefts, helped us out with that as well. Looking at arsons, we didn't have any arsons last year, so the year before we had 4, so we're down in that category. So total property crime was up about 9%, but we're hoping with some new legislation that passed and some new directives from the district attorney's office that, and also, with the new patrols and the things that the city has supported us on implementing for residential burglaries, that we can bring that down and get a decrease in that area. Hopefully we're looking at the negative next year this time.
With that, we're going to move on and talk a little bit specifically about residential burglaries. With that, I'd just like to direct your attention to the screen there that shows year-to-date where all the residential burglaries has occurred here in the city of Cerritos. The light mustard-colored dots represent the previous residential burglaries. The colored ones, the ones that are red and blue, represent what occurred in December. Everything else in there was January through November. But it shows you, if you take a look at that, it's everywhere within the city, right? There's nothing in the center because we don't track what goes on in Artesia. But there's no place in the city that's immune to residential burglaries. Criminals are opportunists, and they're always driving around. We found them in the north end of the city, and if they don't find a target or they don't find what they're looking for, they don't go home. They just drive to the south end of the city. And you can see that the city is pretty much covered everywhere, which is why we're putting those ALPR cameras up in addition to the deputies on additional patrols. So I just wanted to point that out to you. Additionally here, we looked at all the data because we have a full year now. What this slide represents is the point of entry of where people are breaking in. So we took a look at all 202 residential burglaries, and everything in red is the backyard. So basically, you've got 85.7% of the entries are made from the backyard. They're either going to break in through the patio sliding door, which is the most common point of entry, or a side window or a back window. But either way, they are coming into your backyard 9 out of 10 times. Knowing that, that's where you want to go ahead and put your defenses up, if you would, whether it be cameras, whether you lock your side gate, whether you remove anything that people can step on to jump over your gate. Some people put a bell on the gate so that when it opens, it rattles, it makes some noise. But they're coming over the back gate, breaking in, and usually they go out the same way. But that's an important thing to take a look at because we sort of think of our backyard as a very private space, and people wouldn't go back there. Or in the movies, they show them crashing through the front door or whatever, but that's not the case. They go to the backyard, shatter the glass, and make entry. Also here, what you're familiar with, but you've seen Operation Green Bar. It is our hope and our desire one day to make all those red bars green. But you can see they still, even after many, many years, they still remain red. And people wonder why that they are a victim of burglary or they've been burglarized several times. Certainly that's not everybody. Some people are very defensive and we have some very determined burglars out there. But you can see at the end of the year, the majority of the people are not heeding the warnings that we talk about, which is leaving an exterior light on during the hour of darkness. If you look at the numbers there, we've had 39% increase from the previous year. It's going up. It's not as much as the year before that. It's about the same, but still a lot of people coming here creating residential burglaries. And if folks would follow our warnings, because we track what the suspects do, where they go, when they do it, time of day they do it, how they do it. And this is our best information for you, that during the hours of darkness, you have to leave an exterior light on, keep an interior light on, park a vehicle in the driveway. If you take a look at that, 26 homes were burglarized that had cars in the driveway, but 170 homes were broken into because they didn't think anyone was home. Because ultimately, as we always say, suspects are not looking for you. They're not looking for confrontation. They're looking for your property. And if they think you're home, they're going to move on. We had one last month where it was a short dogleg cul-de-sac. And the one house that got burglarized, because we came in and interrupted it, was the only house on the street that didn't have a car in the driveway. So when they drove down that cul-de-sac and they looked at all the homes, every car looked like someone was home with cars in the driveway. This was over the holiday. And the one house that didn't look like there was any indication somebody was home, that's the one that was hit. And so that's what suspects look for here. Any cameras, any security whatsoever. We also had recently a home that was broken into for the second time. They had an alarm, but they did not have the alarm activated. So if you look at the numbers here, 96% of the people, 96 homes did not have alarms, 140 homes did not have alarms. And of the ones that did have alarms, only 34 of the 96 had them activated. So what happens is they either don't turn them on, they're not functioning, or they think, I'm just going to the store, I'm only gonna be gone for a few minutes or a half hour, or I'm gonna go pick the kids up. And that's when people are watching and that's when they go in. So if the alarm's not set, then they're gonna spend a lot more time in the house. And that's what that shows. So we appreciate your support in getting the word out, and anyone who might be watching this broadcast, this is the key to success. If you do all those things, then your chances of being burglarized drop dramatically. With that, I will ask Captain Drew Strong there to talk about the traffic report or introduce a member of your staff.
I have a few questions related to the crime. Can do it right now, before traffic? Several people asked me, I asked to see if, to bring things up. There were, I think in December, couple shootings on the Lamo and Pioneer. I know that's not Cerritos, but that's right also Cerritos on the side. And then two more, a little more to the north, the Lamo and Pioneer. That's at in Lakewood. But there were 4 shootings. Is that, can the community know that's gang related or anything that should, is anything that we could talk about those shootings? Because
Sure, thank you for.
a lot of our residents but go through that area.
Yes, thank you for the question. It's always alarming when you have shootings, and in this case, you had a death. You know, these are very serious crimes. Perhaps Captain Strong, you want to comment on that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm aware of that shooting, and I've been in contact with Captain Dan Holguin over at Lakewood Station. It is gang-related, the shootings. We have put additional patrols in that particular area from Cerritos, and I know that Lakewood and their gang investigators are looking at that, and obviously Homicide Bureau is investigating it, but it's an active investigation right now, so I can't really release too many details in regards to that. But it's been on the radar, and nobody's forgotten about it, and we are acting accordingly as far as patrols go and dealing with the gangs that are involved in that.
And just to add to that, those are local, community gangs, if you would, not from Cerritos, but again, as you mentioned, merely yards away from the city border. And some of these gangs here have had disputes for decades, generations actually. And that's what happened is the 2 rival gangs are having conflict right now. And that's what you saw play out there is the shootings.
Yes, because we had, I think, 4 shootings in that area, one up to Carson, and the 5th one was on Artesia, but it's still everything along Pioneer Boulevard almost from 166 all the way to Carson. And the next question, or they asked me to check, because you mentioned LPRs. Maybe this is not the place, I'm not sure the place to talk about this, but just to think, sometimes we have patrol cars parked in our neighborhoods. Could those be, could they add LPRs to those patrol cars that are parked and maybe video? Because I know they're there just to help us out.
That's an excellent idea. We'll take a look at it. Same equipment, the funding would be there, whether it's stationary on a pole or it's connected to a radio car. That's something we can look at as well.
And the third one right now is, okay, we had crime, and then deputies arrest people whenever they're caught. Do we know? Does the city know what happens? Or is anybody persecuted? Does the city get a report of, okay, there were 100 people caught in 2 months, and how many are really prosecuted? If they are, because they're not, they're going to come back. So I'm not sure. Do we get a report on that?
I can ask Captain Strong here, but I will say that the LA County Sheriff's webpage, you can go to retrieve the crime information. It usually doesn't have the current year because, countywide it takes a long time to actually gather all that data. But if you go back, I think the one that's most recently posted is 2023. And you can go in there specifically on how many crimes, how many people got arrested for those crimes, what the percentage of arrests are, the age, juveniles, males, females, all that stuff is in there. But I will ask Captain Strong here if he knows through his detective division what type of filings they're seeing.
Right. So I think, Mel, the question that you're asking is, do we provide the city an update when we arrest somebody? Do they get an update on that particular individual and what the result was? Were they convicted? Did they plead? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, because only city related. I seen that report that Mr. Evans said.
Yeah.
But,
So in regards to that, no. We provide the city with a detailed spreadsheet of the individuals that were arrested, what the crime was, but not whether they were convicted or not, because the period of time that takes, it takes a long time to acquire that data. Sometimes cases are pushed off for 6 months, especially before. Sometimes things were held for different reasons. During COVID, a lot of the cases were pushed back. So it's very hard we have access to every single case. So we can look it up to see if they were convicted or pled or whatever that happened to them. But as far as providing that as a regular updated report to the city, it's difficult to gather that data and provide it in a timely fashion without being months and months and months down the road, to which I don't know how you'd compare that data to something that the city or the citizens would want to see.
Yes.
I know you guys want to see if there's a conviction for these individuals or not. Of course, I can provide information to Daryl in the Public Safety Office regarding that, but as far as a regular report, a recurring report, no. But if there's a specific incident that, you guys had questions about, yeah, generally speaking, we if Daryl asks me, hey, Drew, do you have the outcome of this case? I can definitely look that outcome of the case up and provide it to him. But as a regular recurring thing, no, we don't do that.
Okay, thank you. Because somebody asked me, and I know it's hard, because do we follow up? Is there a city, maybe I could ask the city council this, but do we have an attorney that goes and makes sure that people that come here are prosecuted? So I'll check that on.
If I can just expand on that, I have in my office a booking slip of someone who did a high-value theft out of Nordstrom's. They were apprehended, a struggle ensued. They were arrested for robbery, technical robbery, Estes robbery, if you would. I have the captain check on that periodically. It's been 8 months now, and there's still no trial set.
Yeah, and the last thing, regarding the property crime, I saw on crime mapping, so far there are 10 home burglaries this month, and I saw 5 of those are at night. So maybe the patrol is working, because even in my own neighborhood, what was happening before is happening at night now. So the home breaking and the GTA was at night, and before it was almost mostly in the daytime. And that's also that the vehicle break-ins and GTAs are way down compared to January last year. So something's working somewhere there. So thank you.
In regards to the uptick that you're referring to in the burglaries at night, we did have one incident where 5 locations in a particular apartment complex were hit in one night. So that's I was talking to the crime analyst about that earlier today, about how we compile the data, how we present the data. And I strongly urge everybody to, be patient. And when they asked me about the residential burglaries to begin with, people were asking, 2 weeks after we implemented all these things, hey, what's the status on the residential burglaries? Have they gone down? And I like to provide it more on a quarterly basis, because it gives us a better picture of where things are really going. For instance, we had that one incident where, 4 locations were hit in an apartment complex in one night. Well, that's going to skew the numbers of residential burglaries. So it doesn't give us really, really good data if we only start looking at it once a week or something like that. It's better to look at it over a little bit of period of time, because you could have 4 that night and then not have any burglaries for 10 days afterwards, for instance, and then the numbers kind of balance themselves out. So it's better to look at data over like almost a little bit longer period of time than weekly or daily.
Okay. Yes. All right.
But your insights are accurate. Last year, 25% of residential burglaries happened during the hours of darkness. That's why we talk about Operation Nightlight and leaving the light on.
That's why I was telling some residents that the reason they secure this in the daytime, that's because most will happen in the daytime.
Yeah.
So,
1 in 4 will happen after the sun sets.
okay. All right.
I just want to point out too for the committee, because sometimes when you look at these numbers, they do float a little bit depending on which one you're looking at. This isn't a banking spreadsheet. It's more of a weather vane. It shows patterns, because these numbers do get updated. Depends on when we pull the data. For example, if someone is on a 2-week vacation and we don't capture the burglary that month, and then later on a report will show that it did happen, because the people will come home, they'll look at their security camera and they'll go, oh, that happened last Tuesday, or that happened at the end of November, and we're in 2 weeks into December. And so, these crimes are counted as they are reported, and then they are categorized as when they occurred, especially when you get to the end of the year as to what happened in December versus January when people are traveling. So the numbers do float a little bit. But if you think of it as a weather vane and you look at 200 plus burglaries, overall, these are very accurate patterns. So
Thank you.
I wanted to make a comment as well, is that I think something that also helped out was I think every Friday email gets pushed out regarding tips on how to stay safe. And that's something I get off at 10 o'clock. So every time I come down the stairs, I always see it. And the people that lived around me, they also appreciated it because it gave them good tips. And hopefully that also contributed to the numbers coming down just a little bit.
Thank you for that. Yeah, if no other questions, we will continue on.
Sergeant Neil Wendland will take care of the traffic report for us.
Month of December, failure to yield, unsafe turning was our primary. Up and around the mall, believe it or not, I think the Christmas time brought in probably excessive people to the mall. South and Gridley is kind of a problematic intersection, and it ranges from unsafe turning, excessive speed. And when I say excessive speed, it's people stopped and a car coming in behind and rear-ending the car. Technically, that's unsafe speed for conditions. That was the primary factor at that location. Unsafe turning. Many of the reports read they got distracted. It didn't go into detail. I've asked the deputies to try to ask them how they became distracted. Is it a cell phone? Is it your screen on your vehicle? So I'm hoping they get more detail next time. The phone seemed to be still the primary cause of a lot of accidents. 60% of them last month only were on private property, the mall and town center, backing up, pulling in. Quite a few hit and runs last month in and around the town center and the mall. Believe it or not, we got a lot on video, a lot of witnesses. A lot have come forward after the fact that they want to provide their insurance information. Usually they cannot identify the driver, but all they want is their car fixed. And we usually facilitate the exchange of information on that. When it comes to the year, I was actually pretty impressed. Two factors, our enforcement index did go down from last year's. However, our traffic accidents went down almost 3.5%, which is a big time deal to me. Injuries were up a little bit, and reviewing the injury collision reports from the last 90 days, most of them were complaining of pain. They did not go to the hospital, or if they did, they went on their own later on. But they complained of pain, we count as an injury. It's an accident. Sites were down, but so were accidents. I'm hoping for next year, I've motivated my motor officers to really hit Gridley and South, Studebaker and South. It seems to be the primary area. I still get calls occasionally on the schools. I've gone out there and I've talked to them one morning, some of the drivers. So the schools have set up a cone and signs asking people not to park there for their buses and for drop-offs. We cannot enforce a sign made up by the school asking not to park there. However, I did find that when the motors and I went out there and talked to people, they seem to be pretty pleasantly cooperative with not parking there when they find out the reason why. Whether it helped, the phone calls stopped or weren't as frequent from the schools. So I'm hoping that affected their response to a sign being put out for no parking. I think that's it. I have nothing else to say.
Thank you, Neil.
I have a question on traffic. Deputies give fines and tickets to drivers. How much does the city get part of the fine? That some of the revenue come back to the city, and what happens to that money?
I can answer that. There are court costs, so there is the fine, and then there are court costs that are levied as well. And the city does get a portion of the funds that are collected from the fine. I don't have those percentages in front of me. I can have that at the next meeting as to actually, and we were talking about this before this meeting, what is the current cost of running a red light or not stopping for red light or speeding or following too closely. So I think if people knew that it's going to cost them several $100s when this occurs, it's because it's not just the fine, it's all the court costs that get added to it. It's usually double. But every time it's going to be several $100s. But we'll have that specific information for you. But to answer your question directly, yes, the city does get a portion of the fines that are collected.
Thank you.
And I remember 10 years ago, answer your question too. 10 years ago, we used to see signs that said, if you run a red light, it's $370 or whatever. I can imagine it's probably gone well. I think we were talking about this well over $500. That's my guess. I told Daryl, hey, I'll look into what these fines are costing these days and try to put a number out so people are aware. Maybe it'll deter the use of a cell phone or speeding up to a red light.
Yes, and then how much money comes to the city? Because we're getting them, we want some of that money back too.
Yes, it's a good point. And of course, as you know, any moving violation is a point against your driver's license, and you're subject to losing that. And more aggressively is the insurance companies. You get several moving violations, you'll watch your premiums go high, which is added cost as well.
Thank you, Surgeon Vandlin. Supervisor Marina, do we have emergency preparedness updates?
Yes, Chair Doshi, I do have a couple of reports on emergency preparedness. First, this is our website, and there's a banner. You'll notice the banner at the website, and it talks about updates on the fires. And so what you can do is click on that banner, and there's information you can find. There's an Alert LA link, and that will give you maps of the fire damage for both the fires, and it is updated daily. And then there are also, there's a section that says stay informed. And so it indicates the 2 local assistance centers for both the fires. And that's where the residents or people that are the victims of the fires can go to get some assistance. And it could be the insurance companies, mental health, Department of Public Works. So that's what's at the local and disaster recovery centers. And then under the LA County Wildfire Recovery Resources, which you'll find after you click on that banner, there is the link to FEMA to apply for the disaster assistance. And then under the provide support in that same link, there are foundations that accept monetary donations and some material donations. Recently, or just this evening, I saw a note on the Cerritos Station Facebook post, and it said that the in-kind donations are at capacity, the materials that are being donated. And so they encourage people to contribute monetarily to Emergency Network LA, the American Red Cross, Salvation Army, and the California Community Network Foundation. And the financial contributions, they're the fastest, most flexible, most effective way to help the victims of the fire. And then there's also the Red Cross. If you're looking for a friend, family members, they do have a reunification on their site, and you fill out the form, and that's very helpful. And then a couple of the programs that we're doing. CERT, we did have a class back in November 15th through the 17th. That was a regional class. It was held in the city of Artesia. 80 people had signed up, but about 52 showed up for the class. It was well received. We had people from Cerritos, Artesia, Whittier, Montebello, Norwalk, La Habra Heights, and Bellflower. And so we're looking at regional teams. Just last weekend, Lakewood hosted a class as well. And so the different emergency managers of all the cities in Area E, there's 25 of us, we're going to meet and put together kind of a team, because disasters know no boundaries. So if we can help each other, should a disaster occur, and then we can do that. So that's what we're looking at. Also on the screen, you see the emergency planning guide. And so one of the things of our New Year's resolutions, we should have a plan. We should have our emergency action plan. So we should know our risks, pack a go bag. I mean, that was pretty important during the evacuations, during the fires. And the go bag should include a map, so you know 2 different ways to evacuate from your area. There are other items that you should have in the go bag. Prescriptions, very important, including glasses and contacts. It says to carry your credit cards and ATM cards, but if there's no electricity, you might not be able to use your credit cards. So it's always good to have cash, and also small bills, because you don't want to pay $20 for that $2 bottle of water because somebody doesn't have cash or change for you. Flashlights, battery-powered items. If you can get a kind of a mobile charger for your phone. There's 6 P's of evacuating: people and pets. So not only do you evacuate, you've seen that there are a lot of pets and that had to be evacuated, and not all evacuation centers will accept pets, so know where to go. Papers, phone numbers, important documents. The thing about, we all have our contact numbers on our phones, but if our phone dies, we can't remember our contact phone numbers, so it's good to have that as a hard copy on you. Again, with the prescriptions, photos and personal items, personal computer and hard drives. If you do have digital. Hang on to that, and then, as I said, plastic if you have your cards and ATM. Also, keep a half a tank of gas in your cars, and that, so that, you know, if the gas stations are affected or there's no power, then you can't get gas. So it's a good idea to just keep a half a tank of gas in your vehicles. This information, a lot of the information I spoke about, can be found on ready.gov on the website. And then the city's emergency plan is on safercerritos.us website. And that concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you.
Gordon?
Yeah, so 50 years ago, I worked Pacific Palisades, and people asked me, will Cerritos ever have that problem? The difference is the geology in Pacific Palisades. People are in cul-de-sacs, up canyons, hillsides, which we don't have. Just fire hydrants in the hills are a problem. Here in Cerritos, when there's a fire, I think at least 3 stations will send fire engines to your house, and each one has enough water in the truck alone to take care of your fire. So we don't have that problem. In Pacific Palisades, they require all the houses to have fire sprinklers, and those prove to be useless. That's extra expenses that won't save their house. And the history of Pacific Palisades prior to that was Brentwood. Same exact thing happened. Brentwood took off with a fire, everything burned. And so the next problem they're going to have is landslides. All those hills are going to wash down, all those mud flows are going to wipe out any remaining houses there. As far as Cerritos goes, I believe that our rivers may not be capable of handling all the water either if we get those same rains that we got in the 1930s or 1880s. The LA Times shows Artesia totally underwater. That's when it rained 40 days, 40 nights. What we're going to do, we have the local rivers. They raised up the banks, but what's going to happen is all that water's going to come out of the sewers and fill up our properties from the main drains. So we won't have electricity to pump water out. We'll just have to wait to dry things out. But hopefully my predictions won't come true and we'll be okay.
Thank you for those remarks, and you're absolutely right. Committee member Hom, no community is exempt from a disaster. You know, it's not like we're going to have a forest fire because we don't have forests, although we do have a lot of trees. But you know, Mother Nature is very unpredictable. We are subject to earthquakes. We do have 2 major freeways here. We could be subject to chemical spills. We have train lines nearby where people would have to be forced to evacuate because of chemical spills and different things. So
the worst trees are the palm trees.
yes, palm
with the
trees and pine
dried
trees.
palm fronds. And as far as earthquake goes, we will not shake as bad as the San Fernando Valley. Our ground is a little more solid. It may be more liquefied, but in the valley, if you're standing in Van Nuys and a bus goes by, it will shake the ground. We don't have that here in Cerritos. When the ground shakes, all the areas that ever had major earthquake damage, they all reported the ground would always shake when a bus or truck went by.
That is welcome news. Thank you. Chair Doshi, we just have one success story here. I'd like to just return back to Captain Strong here, who wants to talk about something that is a little more upbeat than disaster within the city, and that's a success that the investigators had with some of our pharmacy burglaries. Captain Strong.
Thank you, sir. So yeah, I wanted to highlight this at the end of the burglary portion, but I'll highlight it now. So this is some of the effect that some of the procedures that we put in place help implement. So one of them was a great arrest made by deputies on December 3rd, 2024. On the indicated date, deputies received a priority audible alarm call at 13737 Artesia Boulevard, units 201 and 202 in Cerritos, doing business as Medicine Man Pharmacy. The call stated two males were breaking into the location. Deputies responded and located the two males in front of the business. They ordered them to stop, and the suspect refused to comply. Both suspects refused to comply with their orders, entered their vehicle, and drove away from the location. Deputies initiated a vehicle pursuit and chased the suspects. After the vehicle pursuit, the suspects fled from their vehicle on foot and were apprehended shortly after. Upon locating the suspects, a search of their vehicle revealed a radio signal jammer, burglary tools, and multiple fake paper license plates. The district attorney filed felony burglary charges on the suspect. So that's a success story. And on that particular one, we switched audible alarm calls at pharmacies to priorities, and we got a good result out of that. So we're hoping that if we continue doing this, we'll have some more success stories in the future. That's all I've got.
So that's the end of the report. Happy to answer any questions that you have, or we will move on to item 7A if you have no questions. But
Can we have a motion to receive and file the report?
Motion to receive.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a report from community safety members. Member Cortez? Your report from staff.
Hello, everyone.
7A, report.
7A, yes, Chair Doshi, if I may just have a couple remarks here, just have a couple items for you before we move on to the committee. And first of all, I'd like to say that we just finished our holiday interdiction here. We had a lot of people within the city shopping, and that is good news. And I want to report that it was unremarkable, and it was just business as usual, and that is a good thing. It wasn't by accident, by the way. As you can see on the screen there, we called upon a lot of resources. Captain Strong there asked for the mounted patrol. So we had horses there. We had extra deputies there. The city funds additional deputy patrol time in and around all of our commercial districts. We call upon our VOPs who also patrol the area. And we called upon everybody to keep the crime down, including Santa and his elves, as you can see by the photo there. Everyone's assistance was welcome. And as a result of everybody working together, including community groups and Neighborhood Watch, it was unremarkable. They have over 500,000 people come through the shopping centers here. It's very successful economically, and it was very peaceful. So that's good and welcome news.
Thank you.
Additionally, I want to talk about preparation. We heard about this morning what the city's doing to keep crime down. I talked about all the efforts of the deputies and Captain Strong. I want to just, bring to light here a saying from Confucius, which is success depends upon previous preparation, and without such preparation, there is sure to be failure. That's 2,500-year-old advice. It is just as valuable today as it was 2,500 years ago. And it comes back to Operation Green Bar that we talked about in preparing. Residential burglary has been going on in the city for decades. I've been first assigned here in 97. Same problem then, same problem today. The more people we can get on board with hardening the target and following the advice, the more preparation we do, the less crime we're going to have here. So preparation is very, very important. And to follow up with what Emily had said about disaster preparation, that all has to occur before the disaster. There's no preparing for a disaster during the disaster. It's too late. And so that's very important. Final piece of business here is I'd like to acknowledge and thank Patrick Stint, who is, this is his last meeting here today. Just want to thank you for your leadership, your insightful comments through the years, your stellar liaisoning with the city and the community, and your friendship to many. You're such a nice guy, and everybody talks to you and approaches you, and you're such a fantastic ambassador for the city. We're going to miss you, and I just want to personally thank you for your contributions. So, and I'm going to turn the mic over for you now, since this is your last meeting. I know you got some family members here, if you'd like to introduce them as well.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that, Ms. Evans. I brought my dad came with my daughter. She's a frequent person here throughout the years. But yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the honor to serve with all you guys. It's been a really fun ride, and I really appreciated getting the opportunity to be here with you guys. So just want to say thank you guys.
Thank you, sir. With that, sir, the next item is 7B, which is a report from Community Safety Committee members.
Member Cortez.
My list is not too long. Okay. The one good news for my community, for my area where I live with my neighbors, we're very happy with the security patrol. We see them almost every day. My neighbors see them. They say, oh, they're here, they're here. I know Ray. I met Ray, the driver, and he's really nice. He says hi to people. Most of my neighbors have say hi to him before. Every time I see him, he stops and we talk. So that's a welcome part of what's been happening in the past 2-3 months with the city. That we saw my community really responded to something positive right here. Also, we noticed a lot more deputies than before, like during off time, just drive by in the middle of the night or during the daytime. So they're visible. So that's another welcome thing that we notice. And another issue, our neighborhood watch captains group from the city. We met with after many years. We met I think about 3-4 years ago with Deputy Cham and Mark Smith, and we got to see some of the newer captains, the ones that are new, and it was good. So right now we probably have about 50 some in our group. There are more captains, but as a group that we talk to each other almost daily, each about 50, we probably represent about maybe 3,000 to 5,000 residents. So when things happen, sometimes we probably exaggerate, but at least we keep us informed. Like this happened right here, this happened over here, and it goes to the captains, and those captains go to their groups, and just like in 5-10 minutes, it goes to about 3,000 to 5,000 people. So that's something like us. I know not many in our group are captains, but I know everyone's a member, and those at home like become members of the Neighborhood Watch group. And I think I will say call 562-916-1266 because even though there's a lot of criminals coming to my area all the time, most of the time they miss. Because we talk to each other, we make sure that working with deputies, security, and mostly us, the people that live right there, we're actually the first responders because we're the ones that see them. So the more people that join Neighborhood Watch, the safer our city will be. So, and it's not just, when you join Neighborhood Watch, it's not just to deter the crime. Like when Santa came, we got together as a neighborhood. We got together and we all got on in one of the streets and we welcomed Santa when the Santa Parade for the city. Also, we had, and I know several groups like Karen's have a neighborhood group picnics and stuff. So it becomes a social thing. And if we become more social and get to know your neighbors, the easier it will be for us to actually stay safe. So with that, we didn't say it to everybody, but Happy New Year because we hadn't seen each other since last November. Thank you.
Member Flex.
Yes, I want to mention some comments about the fires. Now I know Cerritos isn't a high fire area, but the question I have is, there were if you watch the TV, they would talk about the air quality and the quality of the water, but they referred to it for the whole county of Los Angeles. And so people I know said, well, the air quality is not good anywhere in Los Angeles County, so we can't go out. Or they say we shouldn't go out. And the same thing with the water. They said there were places in LA County where the water wasn't drinkable. So my question, is there any way the city has access to data that's more just our area? Because, and if you had that information, you could send it out via the Neighborhood Watch emails to say, if you could be more specific about our city?
If I can address that, if you're just looking for daily air quality AQMD, but if you're talking about during a disaster, certainly if we were impacted, but because that is on the other side of, LA County basically, and if people are not aware, LA County is over 4,000 square
Right,
miles, and
right.
depending on which way the wind's blowing and the nature of the emergency, all that sort of stuff. But the most accurate updates would be through the county's Emergency Operations Center, which would be available as Emily mentioned early on. We posted a link to all of those. So we wouldn't update that information that come from the county's Emergency Operations Center. But what we do is provide a link to that information, as it's unfolding. Like right now, I'm not really sure what the status of the fires are, but I could go to that link and get that right away. They post it pretty frequently. But we would not routinely do that for something like, say, in Palmdale or Lancaster. It just depends on, is it impacting the city or not? But absolutely, if it's impacting the city, that is something we would communicate to the residents as well.
Okay, so basically the air quality was always pretty good here?
Yes, it was. And I was in Orange County, and it was, completely unaffected. And so, again, depending on whether you are up in age or have asthma, you may be a little more sensitive than others. But there have been fires when we could go outside and you'd actually get ash on your car.
Yeah,
That wasn't the case here, so we weren't adversely affected. But certainly if it's enough where you're getting ash and the area is impacted, we would alert people as well. But in this case, that was not the
Okay, so the answer
situation.
is no news is good news,
No news is good news.
basically, okay. And the same thing applies for the water quality as well?
Yes, it's always good to have filters. We talk about that all the time, but we were not impacted by that. We have our own water district here, and it was unaffected by what was going on there. But you will see that occur during earthquakes. A lot of the sediment gets kicked up, maybe some residue in the pipes. And so if you turn your water on after a serious earthquake, you may see some impurities in there, which is why I always talk about having water filters. Again, Mother Nature is subject to rupturing those pipes. Even though we don't talk about fires, but we do have large gas lines that comes to the city. So it is possible. You're not going to get the kind of fires that you see over there because we're not in canyons and mountaintops, and we don't have the artificial winds generated by canyons and those sort of things. But it is possible to have communities impacted by fire, especially if you have a ruptured gas line. You saw that in San Francisco, right? You saw that up north when they had a ruptured gas line as well. So we're not immune. We should always be ready and prepared for any type of emergency.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Gonzalez?
Yes, I just have one thing. With New Year's, we have new laws in effect. I'm just curious with the daylighting law, where you can't park, I think, 20 feet within a curb. How is that going to be enforced, and who's going to be enforcing that? Is that the sheriff, the city?
Thank you for asking. The question was the new law that passed effective January, where you're not allowed to park within 20 feet of an intersection, and that is to keep the intersection within view. Because some people, particularly if you have a van or a camper or something, it causes an obstruction. So as of January, you can be cited if you park within 20 feet of an intersection. 20 feet is typically the size of a police patrol car, so at least one car length. And we're seeing a lot of challenges with electric bikes because people pull up and you'll see a bicycle off in the distance, but they travel so quickly that they're within that intersection quickly. And if that intersection is blocked or impeded, it's hard to see that. But to answer your question specifically, both the city and the sheriffs can cite for that violation.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
Member State?
Yes, I have one thing. Also, piggyback off Member Gonzalez, there was another new law that took effect regarding electric bikes. Are we enforcing that heavily? I mean, is that being enforced? As I know, it's new, but is it been enforced? Or do we have any numbers yet on that?
Which
I know-
law in particular were you talking
I think
about?
there was regarding how fast they can go, depending on if it's throttled or not. If a bike that's throttled can't go a certain miles per hour, or it can't be a certain watt.
Yeah, so we have a whole like section of ordinances, or not ordinances, but laws that e-bikes and things like that have to comply with. So I'd have to look at the actual detail on that and get back to you as far as like which section you're referring to and what the violation is for that particular section.
And just to add to that, you're absolutely correct. There's 3 categories of electric bikes. Some of them, as you know, there's electric motorcycles now. And whether it is a bike or not, if it doesn't have a ability to pedal, to power the bicycle, then it's not. And sometimes we see electric, basically small motorcycles. They're dirt bikes, electric dirt bikes. And I've seen people riding on the street and on the sidewalk. You'd be cited for that. That's not a bicycle. If you can't pedal it, it's not a bicycle. But yeah, you're right. There are 3 different categories. And depending on what they are, it requires certain permits and licensing. And so the bottom line is the deputies do stop people who, create safety hazards on those electric bikes. I have a friend that's in the healthcare business. They say that that's the number one reason for going to the ER now is electric bike injuries. Either the people not riding them safely or striking other people because they're very weighted. It's a heavy object at speed. I go to the beach and ride my mountain bike all the time, and you see them down there, a lot with injuries. So
I can refer to the subject matter expert on that, which would be Traffic Sergeant Neil Wenlin.
So I just found out this week on Sunday about it. My kid and daughter were down at the beach, and I guess Newport Beach was enforcing with radar on their bikes. Particularly their area alone was 30 miles per hour on the boardwalk. I just started researching it. I went to the fires a couple times this week, so I haven't mastered it yet, sir. Sorry, but I will look into it more. We have not started enforcing them at all, but we have no complaints really here. I know, I should say no, but my buddies in Fullerton and the beach cities, not Fullerton, Newport Beach, they have a big problem on the boardwalks with those electric bikes going too fast. We don't seem to have the issue as much. There is a law pertaining to the speed on sidewalks now. They want them on the streets, nearest the right-hand curb, flowing with traffic. They are considered a quote-unquote a vehicle as far as the vehicle code is concerned. But I will look into it for the next meeting and have a better answer. But the answer to your question, we're aware of the speed limit law for the new electric bikes. We have not started enforcing it. Nor do we have any complaints about them.
Thank you, ma'am. Member Nam?
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to, of course, thank all the first responders out there during the last 8 days, including my son who's out there with LAFD. And I'm looking forward to the Southwest patrolling and the drones that we'll be using. Hopefully have some good results with that. Thank you.
Member Home?
Yes, I want to thank, we're going to lose a bunch of committee members when we get new council people coming in. I live in Shadow Park. One of the biggest issues is mail theft. Around, typically, cameras have caught people going into the mailboxes at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. We suspect that could be homeless people coming through the gates when somebody exits. A lot of people don't bring in their mail because when we get a new postman, they deliver at 5 p.m. or even later, and so we don't bring in our mail. And so a lot of people leave their mail and packages there at night. Supposedly, one of the cameras caught somebody, taking items from the mailbox, and somebody said that somebody put in a tracker. And did the sheriff's department get involved where they caught the mail thief?
I'm not aware of that particular incident that you're referring to, sir. As far as a tracker in somebody's mailbox, I'm not aware of that. That might be something that the U.S. Postal, General. He might.
We understand that the U.S. Postal is supposed to take care of that, but I'm thinking that it does affect the people around um, Carson, no, around Del Amo and Bloomfield. So any of you neighbors there, make sure you bring in your mail, check your packages, bring them in at night. So that a thief won't have the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Wilson?
I also want to thank all of our first responders and our law enforcement for the fires and for going out and helping. I have a lot of friends and family over on the Palisades area, so I want to say thank you to everything and putting your lives on the line just to save everyone. Also going forward, our neighborhood watch is going to have Zone 54 block captain meeting. So we're all going to get the block captains together and the new block captains and have a meeting. We're going to go forward with our emergency preparedness committee, which is part of the block captains, and get our residents involved so that if we do have a natural disaster, we know who the doctors are, who the electricians are, who the carpenters are, everyone who knows how to shut off your gas main. So all of this is going to be in our emergency committee that we already have, but we have to revamp it. We've lost a few of our members because they passed away, but so we need to bring more people in and just get it started again. It is 2025, new year, and we're going to go forward with just, doing the best we can for our neighborhood watch and our neighbors.
Thank you, members. Vice Chair Habib?
Thank you, Chair. I just had a comment regarding the response times. I had some family members within the city that reached out to me, made a comment about false tripping their own alarm, and they did see a patrol drive by. So I want to say thank you to that. So we do appreciate it, and the response is not just a statistic, but it is being seen and affecting those who live here. So thank you.
Thank you. You know what, sir? That is full credit to the deputies in the field. That's they're the ones that put forth all that effort to get there as fast as they possibly can. They always do, but we've just provided more tools now to help them get there even faster with the support of the council members and the citizens and everybody else. You guys are the ones that created this, so you guys have created it, and the deputies are pushing forward and implementing it. So, awesome job on both your guys' parts: the deputies, the citizens, and council.
Thank you. I do want to really admire the first responders and who have worked at all the fires that have happened. So thank you to them, and pray for the lives that we lost. The other thing, and thank you for serving in the committee. Member State. I do want to bring this incident that happened, and I think there was a request from a couple members. On the 31st of December, there was a party going on. I don't think it was loud enough, but somebody complained at 8:30 in the evening. And I mean, sheriff, I don't know who came in, but sheriffs came in and they visited, and they really felt that there was not enough noise or anything, but somebody complained. And then again, there was a second complaint like at around 10 o'clock for the 31st of December. And I think that's a lot of waste of resources from the sheriff to have to come in for a day like that. Is there something that we can do that will prevent a waste of resources that are going out, that you have two sheriffs that have to come twice for a noise that was not that much? And second, on the 31st of December, a house party. The third thing that I wanted to talk about was maybe we could have a permit kind of thing that could be set up by the city, that you're going to have a party and you can have a permit taken from the city. So
I'll address the first portion as far as the permit from the city. I'll turn to Daryl for that. If the citizens call, we're going to come. If somebody calls and asks for the sheriff's department to respond, we're going to go. If you're not happy with the level of noise, we're going to come out and check it out. You may think it's nothing, but it could be something. It could be somebody with a full-fledged band in the backyard playing, beating drums and everything else. So we always like to come out and check it out. And also, if it's a concern to them, something else could be a concern to you guys that maybe somebody else doesn't feel, rises to that level. So we'd rather just come check it out ourselves and ensure that it's not any violation and carry on from that point. I know that your perspective on that, you were saying, a waste of resources. And I see what you're saying in regards to being a waste of resources. Hey, it didn't end up being anything, but a lot of times you don't know till you investigate. And that's what we're here for. And that's why we encourage everybody, if you see something, say something. Sometimes it turns out to be no crime. Sometimes it turns out to be something that you didn't think it was going to be, but sometimes it does. So we won't know till we get there and take a look and contact those individuals and everything else. And so I encourage you guys to call. And I do understand the resources because, we want to keep them out there on patrol in those areas for where the burglaries are occurring and everything like that. But we manage. We're making our calls for service. The times are dropping, and we're still answering that call on the 31st while the calls for service are dropping in those time frames. So I'm pleased with that, and I just want you guys to know that we support you guys. If you call, we're coming.
Isn't there a time frame like before 10, or at 10 o'clock, or a noise ordinance that within, 50 yards or whatever? Isn't there an ordinance for that?
I can address that. First of all, there is no permit allowed for a party at a home. Those permits are issued for public places like parks and those sort of things because, some people sleep during the day. Some people work at night. And so it's not subjective, it's objective in the sense that the city has a decibel level that you have to reach. And, we have one of our code enforcement officers who actually has a very sensitive sound decibel reader. You can download that application on your cell phone if people have a smartphone, and they can actually test the sound. And so if it exceeds the level allowed within a residential area, then that's a violation, regardless of the time. It would be no different than if you, owned a jet boat and you're, tuning it up in your front yard and making all kinds of noise. That's still disturbing the peace. It's somebody's peace. And so it's really about how much sound is being made because some people are particularly sensitive. And then, next door, here in Cerritos, it's likely to be somebody taking violin lessons and they're very good at it. And so, again, if it's a call, deputies will come out, no permit required. Generally, we just contact the neighbors or the persons involved and say, hey, you're disturbing your neighbors. If it's a violation, if it exceeds the noise level. If not, then it's not a violation. If not, then we can.
No, I just think it's a waste of resources, that's all. Because when they did come in, and I don't know who came in, but whoever the sheriff came in, it was.
And just to add on that, we do say to everyone, if you see something, say something. If there's some suspicious, call. You know what? The sheriffs will come out regardless. If somebody has an issue, complaint, or concern, we'll respond, advise them at the curb. It's a free service.
But at the same time, if there was something major going on, you're losing the resources there, and you kind of.
Yes, they would
consider-
definitely prioritize that call, particularly on New Year's Eve. That's a given. Fireworks, loud noises, celebration. At midnight.
This goes back to routine, priority, and emergent calls, right? So that would be definitely treated as a routine call. And if there was any type of life-threatening emergency or anything that was to be prioritized, it would fall accordingly under that. So not necessarily, I can see what you're saying with the resources going from one spot to another, because you can't be at two places at one time. However, if there's something that's emergent or life-threatening, that's definitely going to be on the back burner momentarily till we handle the more pressing incident.
Okay.
You need to invite them.
You need to invite them. I know, it was not my house. I was invited at somebody's house. But anyway, thank you. Okay, we can make a motion to adjourn the meeting? Thank you. Second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.